This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to bring to order the Parks, Recreation, Forestry Board meeting for April 20th, 2021. Have a roll call, please.
Mark Castonia.
Here.
Justin Miner.
Here.
Tracy Fluke.
Here.
Aideen Hess.
Here.
Heidi Murphy.
Here.
And Deborah Lundberg. And Chris Zerbel.
Here.
Pledge allegiance. Action on the agenda. Does anybody have any comments or changes that you want to make to the agenda? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve it.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the agenda as presented. Any other comments? In that case, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Comments from the public? Doesn't look like we have any public here. Okay. Written communication. I know we have one where we received a communication from somebody complimenting the department and the personnel on the Easter egg hunt that we had. And I think that's all.
Sue, is there one that came in
There's
yesterday?
another one there.
That,
The Easter egg hunt, and then that's the Easter egg hunt.
yeah.
So this is a thank you from the AARP.
Oh, yeah. Okay, and we have another communication from the AARP tax aid that was successful. And that was sent to us by Tom Brzezinski.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody has any comments about those two items, otherwise we'll just put them in the file for a good mark reference.
I would like to say I was at the Easter egg hunt this year. It was really well done. The age categories were really, like being on the softball field went really well this year for my little one. So I
Good.
liked that a lot.
Glad that it worked out. We just wanted to try and, as much as possible, thin things out maybe a little bit more.
I thought it was wonderfully done. We were pretty
Good.
pleased. We didn't get any stickers, but I guess the candy was in
Thank you.
Item number 7, action on the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes from the last park board meeting. I believe there were a couple of minor corrections as to who's attending and who was remote.
Well, actually, Mark, I did submit the amended ones. We should vote on the amended
Oh,
ones.
okay.
Everybody did receive that.
Okay. I don't think it's any big deal because there were no controversial votes taken for anything. So I guess if anybody has any comments concerning the amended minutes?
I've got a question with regards to, are we not looking at monthly expenditures anymore?
We are not.
Is there a reason?
Well, we were the only committee that was still doing that, and with the new accounting system that we have that's in place, the old one, it was fairly easy to do. This one, it's not. I'll leave it at that, Dean, and just say it's very difficult to enter all of the individual expenses on top of what we're doing. You can do a general printout, but it literally shows everything. It would be like astronomically long to be able to do that. And so the new system, at least for this particular task, it's much better in other tasks, but with this system, it doesn't bode well for doing it the way we used to do it.
Okay,
If there are any questions about any expenditures or what was spent on a particular piece of equipment or a service, whether it be garbage or fertilizer or anything like that, I mean, I'm certainly happy to come up and do a particular agenda item, on any of those requests.
Yeah, most of the items on the list before were minor, and they were either budgeted or.
Correct. A lot
in
of them
your
are
operations.
program supplies for many of
Yeah.
our programs and their
Yeah.
special events, and the larger expenses typically already go through
Right,
Park Board and Village Board for approval.
okay. Okay, Dean?
sounds good.
Okay. In that case, I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
Any further comments? Not hearing any. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, action items. Item 8A, action on the Ashwaubenon Marina Pier bid recommendation.
So this is out at the Ashwaubenon Marina. The village is in charge of the repair and maintenance of the actual piers that go out there, not on the docks, but of the piers themselves. And what happened in 2020 is what happened in a lot of areas along the Fox River and Lake Michigan is extremely high water levels, coupled with some multiple storm events where the waves were well over the pier itself. It caused a little bit of havoc on the bulbs on the end of the north and the south pier. Basically, the stone underneath the concrete bulb washed out, causing a void underneath that concrete. And basically, they cracked, and one of them actually started to tip then down into the water. Certainly an unsafe condition on the south pier, and eventually the north pier will have the same thing happen to it. So Village Board approved the process of going ahead and bidding that out. The bids came in. There was one bidder, which was Martel, listing Peters Concrete as a sub for some of that work as well, in the dollar amount of $49,911.95. You can see the bid tab is attached to your agenda item. Martel has done multiple projects for the village before, as has Peters Concrete. The last project that both of them worked together on is actually in the Park and Rec Department, doing the new sports complex plaza area going up to the ice center, the sidewalk work and everything around there. So with that, the dollar amount was very close to what was originally budgeted, which would be coming out of TIF 3. I think it's a couple $1,000s higher. The cost of the price difference there was actually, there were additional light poles during the whole time that started to tip further along the walkway, and we wanted to take care of those all at once. So those were added in kind of last minute, which is why the dollar amount is a little bit higher than what was originally budgeted, 45,000 up to 49,000, is to redo all the light poles, not all of them, but the additional light poles on the walkway. Straighten them out and then put an additional riprap around them, and put a larger concrete slurry area around each pole. On the bulbs themselves, what's going to wind up happening is the concrete's going to be removed. There's going to be a larger diameter of rock put underneath there that's not so easily washed out. The new bulb will be poured over that rock, and then there'll be additional stone, larger stone, around the exterior of the bulb that is supposed to break up more of the wave action than what currently is there. So basically, it's going to be beefed up, just because of the higher water level and certainly the water conditions along any shoreline. We're not unique in having that issue in the last year or two with the high water levels. So what our request is to approve the bid from Martel Construction in the listed dollar amount of $49,911.95, which includes the light pole straightening along the walkway. Forward that to Village Board next week for consideration.
Rex, would this have come in under budget if it weren't for the light poles? And then with the light poles, was that something that came up since the bids, since these bids went out, or was that something that was just an overall?
Yeah, I think there were 3 that were certainly noticeable when we put the initial estimate together, but going out there for a final review, we're looking in line, and there's 3 of them that are certainly at an angle, but then looking along the line, there was 4 additional ones that really weren't caught. And it's kind of like, okay, do you want to have everything straight and then still have those 4 poles? You know, even though they're not super bad, if they're tilting a little bit now, within a year or 2, they're going to be tilting more. Because obviously they've been undermined by the higher water area. It's just that they haven't fully tilted yet. So I think what we wanted, well, I know what we wanted to do was just take care of it all at once now while the mobilization is ready on site, and have them do anything that potentially, you know, could start tilting or cause issues within the next couple of years.
So in essence, it basically been cheaper to get it done now than
Yes.
have them come back out, do it later,
Yes.
a year or 2 now, down the road. Okay.
Correct.
And there's not.
Rex was,
Yeah, yes, Dean.
Rex, was there any discussion about the, how much riprap they were going to put out based upon the depth of the river around those bulbs?
I don't have an exact number on that in front of me. I mean, you've got the armor stone is what it's called. Looks like it's going to be calling for 50 tons of armor stone. How that compares, Dean, to what is out there right now, I'm sorry, I don't know the difference, except I'm assured by AECom, which is the engineering consultant that we're using. It certainly, they said, is more than what it is right now, and their calculations will create enough of a barrier that it will stop anything from washing out.
Okay, that was the only question I had, because I'm looking at mitigating a similar situation, and the recommendation I was given for foot in height, it needs to go out 3 feet. So let's say the depth of the river at that point was 8 feet, you'd have to go out 24 feet. So I was just curious as to what we were doing in particulars to mitigate that current erosion issue.
Yeah, again, I am not an engineer on this. I go with what the recommendation is from AECom, the consultant that we're using on the project. Obviously, there's also DNR considerations to take into, you know, that enter the picture in terms of how much rock you can put in the river, and how far out you can go. Once you start, you know, going too far out, then it becomes a much different permitting process, because now you're putting additional material in the river that where it wasn't before. Right now, it's just more of a replacement repair project versus an addition to the project. So again, this is the AECom recommendation that I'm bringing forward, Dean. I don't have the specifics of what is in there now versus what we're going to get, other than the assurance that it's much more and it will do the job.
Okay.
Justin, you had a question?
Yeah, so just the overage versus what was originally supposed to be bid, that's not a concern.
There's dollars in the TIF project. You know, the TIF, it's going to be coming out of TIF 3, basically, for the TIF district. And so there's different projects within the TIF district. And quite honestly, sometimes the majority of the time, one is under and one is over, and some of the monies are able to be moved around a little bit for projects that are more in need. So I don't see this as an issue moving forward. It's a fairly minimal dollar amount in the grand scheme of things. So no, I don't see that as being an issue.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions or?
Yeah, I was just wondering, Max, to clarify the project. So basically, the A and the bulb itself will not be any work on that. It's everything underneath to refurbish underneath. So the A will remain, they won't redo all of that, or is that all?
The A is going, quite honestly.
okay.
Yeah, we're trying to make this as affordable as possible and I don't and as maintenance-free as possible as we move forward. So the A was very nice, and certainly, you know, those piers have lasted, what, between 15 and 20 years. But for this redoing project, and what Tracy is talking about is at the end of each bulb, in nice different tile, in a square, there's a big square that's inset into the concrete. And I want to say there's probably, you know, 16 tiles that eventually make the old Ashwaubenon A logo that's inset into the concrete. It looked really nice, but we just didn't feel the value or the cost of having that work done was worth the bang for the buck, basically. So we're just having the whole bulb be concrete.
Okay, so they are taking then that slab, the one that you see in the picture, that will all be redone then?
Yeah,
correct?
they're basically where you've got the straight pier, and
Yep.
then it goes around the bulb. Right at where the bulb starts to go around, they will saw cut that.
Okay.
And everything past that saw cut's going to be pulled out and redone.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Do you want a motion on this that we approve it so we can send it to the village board?
Recommended, Mark, would be yes, that you approve the Martell construction bid for recommendation or consideration by the village board.
Okay. In that case, I'll entertain a motion to approve the plan as laid out here so that it can go on to the village board.
I'll make a motion to approve the bid for Martell Construction in the amount of $49,911.95, and forward it on to the village board.
Second it.
Any further comments? In that case, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Nope. All right, looks like we can move right on. Item 8B, presentation of the co-sponsored COVID plans for 2021. I think each of the co-sponsor groups have put a lot of time and thought into their plan, and we'd like to hear if there are any objections to what they came up with.
Yeah, you know, last year baseball and softball did play their seasons, and they came up with really good plans to keep the boys and girls as safe as possible and still, you know, have somewhat of a season last year. This year, I asked all three organizations, because soccer is online this year, so all three will be participating in sports this summer. So asked them to come up with a revised plan with any potential changes for the summer, which they have done. Don't take a look at what's in the packet. What you've done is we've handed out some updates. I think everyone here has them. Sue, did Mr. Hess get an email with the two updates?
Yep, I'll do that.
Okay.
I haven't done it.
Okay, then do that. And Dean, I can explain what those updates are real quick, because they changed within the last couple of days. Some different things were added. But what you have is the current plan, and I know we have Kyle here from AYB. Melody is here from the Ashwaubenon Youth Soccer. They're both presidents of those organizations, and I can speak for Brooke Starks, who's the president of AGSA, regarding any questions that you may have on these plans. The biggest thing with AGSA is that change, I should say, is the dugout policy. Last year, we moved the bleachers totally off of the backstop area so that the girls in the dugout, because there's fairly large teams, could spread out and have that 6-foot distance. And we had, they were sitting in chairs on one side of the dugout, they were sitting on a picnic table on the other side of the dugout, and then you had a couple of girls and some coaches in the dugout. So it was a little bit of a challenge there. It worked. We made it work, and they had a great season. This year, the WIAA has come up with they've changed their guidelines saying that the full team can be in the dugout for high school softball play, as long as everybody in the dugout is masked. And AGSA approached me with that change, and I felt, okay, the standard has already been set by the WIAA. They're doing that across the whole state of Wisconsin. As we speak, that's when the teams start practicing, which I believe they were started this week. That's what the policy is. So I figured that would be an acceptable change within the guidelines that wouldn't create any issues. The other change for both AYB and girls softball is basically food. So there will be food cooked this year at both venues, at Pioneer Park and at Ashwaubenon. I've asked Kyle, and also I've asked Brooke, that the volunteers still are masked, when they're cooking the food, and the people that are volunteering when they're serving the food. I think that, number one, I think it's a safer way to do it. As you see most restaurants, that's how they are doing it. And as well as I think it makes people feel more at ease, and the general public, when they see that happening, they know that at least what they're more apt to go there and purchase things when they see that there's safety precautions being taken. So that's a big change for both organizations as well. And I guess what I'll do is just open up, or I'll ask if anyone wants to, question or have questions on any of the COVID plans. Like I said, Kyle's here from AYB. He can certainly respond, as well as Melody, who will be doing their soccer, for the first time in 2 years. So we're excited to have them back.
I've got a comment, if I could. In light of and I'll come up first of all, preface this by saying I was never in favor of mandatory masks. People can do it. I won't tell anybody not to. But to force people to do it, I was never one that stood behind that. Now, in light of and people are starting to hear about it, the Stanford University study that was peer-reviewed and posted by our own governmental website, National Institute for Health. And it's a pretty easy read. And if you look at it, and they mention the total ineffectiveness of the mask and the physical and the mental health dangers of the mask, in particular, the ineffectiveness in both cases to our youth, especially mentally. And to force our kids to wear these things, I don't agree with at all. It should be the parent's decision and the parent's decision only. To force every kid to wear one, no. I got a big problem with that.
And just to be clear, for the youth sports, they did not wear them in the field of play at all. For baseball or for softball, they
I'll
didn't.
speak, my girls participated in AGSA last summer, and it was actually, I coached last summer also, and it was pretty much, I don't know how to put this, like, it was, if the parents were signing their kiddos up to play the sports, it was at a risk, they were comfortable with the risk level that they were taking. I feel like most parents, if they're going to put their kiddos out there, they find a way to balance that and what that looks like for their families And I will tell you, I was so glad to have my kids on the softball field last
Yep.
summer.
Yeah.
And the enforcement of the masks, when you've got, like, my daughter's in kindergarten this year, so when you've got kindergartners, like, the only thing I would say that was different was that we didn't get the high five at the end of a game. Like, that was literally the only thing that was different. Teams were a little bit smaller because there were less girls, but honestly, like, last year, and if these protocols are even similar, they appear to be a little bit less controlling than they were last year. It was okay last year. I know as the girls got older, there were some different ramifications, and when you go to tournaments and that sort of stuff, there were some different things that happened. But at the basics of AGSA, we loved it, and I'm glad we got to still go, and I'm glad we still got to participate. So I think it really depends on the coach. I think it depends on the families, and I think it really just depends on, do you want to be there or not? And you do what you got to do to be there while being as safe as possible and as smart as possible, and taking the risks that you feel are appropriate for your family. So, like, it went well, and I'm really glad they'll be playing again this year. And if we're asked to put on a mask, we'll put on a mask, but can honestly tell you that that's not something that's at the forefront of my mind as a parent. I just want them to go play with their friends and have some semblance of a normal summer.
My point being forced to wear one.
Correct. I didn't force it. As a coach, I didn't force anybody to put a mask on.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So once again, we're looking for questions, if anyone has any regarding these three plans. If there aren't any questions, then I would probably say, Mark, if you would agree, we're looking for a motion to approve them. Last year, they were also approved by the village board. I would think that we do it no different, just so that everyone's on the same page of what's happening out there.
All right, any other comments then? No? Then I guess we will entertain the motion to accept the guidelines that for the AGSA, the Green Bay and the boys baseball and the soccer as amended
And girls softball.
as of today, I guess, or
I'll make the motion to approve them.
I'll second.
any further comments? Okay, then those in favor of the motion to accept those guidelines signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Alrighty, we have one no. The motion is passed. Next item is the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Project and Program Update.
Sure, and I've got a couple bullet points on the agenda item. I can just briefly give a rundown. It's almost like doing the benefits report in some respects, except we're talking about bigger projects. West Main Avenue Trail, letters have gone out for the right-of-way easement purchase to put the trail extension on West Main. We're working with the county on one little glitch at this point regarding one of the maps, but once those get approved, then a new, hopefully then, the negotiations will continue on in the same fashion that they were verbally agreed to. And then we will move forward and get the project hopefully out to bid here within the next couple of months. So we can chalk this one up for 2021. But that one is continuing. Sherwood Forest Trail Edition, again, we're looking at putting in a trail addition around the pond, and then along the north side of the channel, going all the way back to where the current bridges are. Stantec did a wetland delineation, I want to say last week, Thursday and Friday, they were out there. The good news is that majority of it is high enough where it's not considered wetland. So we are really excited about that. We'll have to do a little bit of boardwalk, but it's very minimal. So again, we're excited about that, and we'll be working with Stantec probably moving forward here on that project.
Are you going to do that this year, Rex?
Yeah, we're going to try and do that this year. And you know what, Tracy? Because it's a crusher dust trail like all the other trails. And I think the DNR is also looking more towards the type of boardwalk. Instead of having footings going into the ground, they're using the larger saucers that sit on top of the ground. A lot of that work we think we can do in-house, especially the trail clearing. And so we don't think we're going to have to go out to bid for it. We think we'll be able to, basically if it's not wetland, we'll be able to take the Bobcat and go in there and kind of make hay, basically. Clear our path, brush it out on each side, and then we'll go in there and start putting crusher dust down to make the new trail. I think there's 1 or 2 potential culverts that may need to go in, but we've got those. I mean, that's been done in multiple other areas within that forest already, crossing some of the little drainage areas. So,
Do you know approximately how long that trail will be, Rex? I mean, quarter mile or?
Tracy, I knew you were going to start to ask me questions.
Okay, forget it.
No,
I'm just
it's
curious.
good. Basically, I want to say it's a couple hundred yards. I mean, it's a fair distance from Shady Lane all the way basically as far back as you can go, because I mean that the western part of that trail going out the Mesa is not that far off the park's property line. So it goes back pretty far. Ashwaubenon River Trail, again, we're still exploring that. The DNR came out and gave us finally, we got our ordinary high water mark done last week, Thursday. Met Crystal from the DNR out there, as well as one of the representatives from Grafe, and they found their spot that they wanted to, they marked it. And so now what Grafe is working on is, based on the ordinary high water mark, they're figuring out exactly where the landings need to go on each side, both at Alden Station and within the park, how far they need to go out. Because with the bridge, if the project continues, and I want to say if because it's not approved yet, there's still some discussions to happen on it. But we want to have a fairly high clearance so that potentially boats can get in and out from underneath, back and forth. With that, we're going to need to push the landings out a little farther on each side, and we needed the ordinary high water mark to feel comfortable with the height we're going to potentially put the bridge in at.
Have you been getting any comments from the people who live along that area that perhaps have boats and want to have access to be able to get to the river?
Yes, we had a informal community meeting here in this room, actually, with the residents on Broadway last fall. I'd probably say the majority of them were not real excited about the bridge or the trail, and that is one of the reasons why we kind of revised some of the plans. The minimum bridge height through the DNR needed to be 5 feet, and right now we've got it up to at least 10 feet clearance. And to allow for that to happen, we had to have the ordinary high water mark, which is what we finally just had done. So we're going to be working on that a little bit more. We wanted to come up with some plans and some sketches, and then one of the next steps would be to have a formal DNR public hearing on the project, where the residents would be able to express any concerns, thoughts, specifically to the DNR representatives that would be present. And that may be in person, that may be virtual. The DNR is still kind of, say, hamstrung, but they're not as open for site visits and going out to different places as we are right now. So it may be a combination of, it may be here, but part of it may be virtual as well with the DNR representatives.
Do you have any idea when that meeting would be, Rex, at all yet, or?
We're hoping, it still will be another couple months. We wanted to have the plans done to show how high the bridge is going to be and where the landings are going to be before we even entertain the thought of scheduling that meeting.
Okay.
So.
And it'll be a public meeting open to anyone can come in and hear about it?
Yep, open to anyone to come in and express opinions.
Okay.
but we will make sure everyone is aware on Park Board, Village Board, and any other village committee of when that public meeting is.
Mark, if I may just interject a little bit and add to Rex's comment regarding the bridge. One of the things that we'd like to do too is, in order to really kind of put together some preliminary plans that vary from what the original plans were with that 5-foot clearance, we needed to, as Rex had mentioned, identify that ordinary high water mark. And then from there, we can begin to do a little bit more in-depth preliminary engineering as to the approaches, the bridge, the costs. And at that point, you know, we'll likely reach out to those property owners directly that had expressed interest or concern with the prior proposal. And then at that point, we'll reach out to them directly first and have individual conversations before we get to that public hearing phase of the project. So we want to make sure that we're having those communications with them directly because they had expressed a significant interest in the project.
Which is a really good idea to do that. I think, you know, they obviously have an invested interest, but I would also say that this bridge is huge. It's going to be an asset to the community and the region as a whole. I mean, you look at the Fox River Trail and the use that gets, this trail could end up getting as much use. So, you know, we want to try to keep the neighbors that are adjacent happy, but we also don't want to stop a project that really is important for the village as well as the region as a whole, so.
Rex, what are we looking at for funding for this project?
We've earmarked about $100,000 out of park development fee money for this, as well as TIF 3 money.
Do you know what the estimated cost is right now? You guys with?
About 1.5, give or take a little bit.
Okay. And that's just the bridge itself and the
That's,
access to
yeah,
it?
that's the bridge itself. You know, it's probably going to be going a little bit higher just with some of the regulations and things like that. The additional testing that we need to do, we have to spend a little bit more money. I believe VW Milwaukee right now is going to be doing a cultural assessment survey on the park side to make sure there wasn't any artifacts that may be buried underneath there from previous settlements back in the day. So there's different things that are going to be, but right now, I mean, the project is estimated at about 1.5. Like any project like this, it's not bid out yet, so we'll see. But give or take a little bit, I think that's a pretty good ballpark number. From the end of the bridge, it's currently planned on going to the southeast a little bit and connecting to the very north point of the lake parking lot. So that way people can park in the lot and then they can walk to the bridge on the trail. That is that phase. We want to get the bridge part done, if the project moves forward, of course. From the next step or the next phase would be taking that trail and continuing it around the backside of Ashwaubenon Lake, looping it all the way to the southern border, going behind New Water, or as many people know, GBMSD, and then into the Brown County Fairgrounds. I had conversation with Brown County this weekend. They have it on their master plan. In fact, they were asked how soon can we get it done, because they'd like to actually move that up a little bit on their master plan. But first things first, the bridge is huge. That's a huge part of the overall project, and we need to get that settled, approved, whatever it may be, before we go forward with the next phase. The bridge is going to be the big thing. It'll be the centerpiece of the whole trail, really. Questions on the bridge before we move on? All right, just an FYI, swim lessons, we're doing okay on swim lessons. We are probably at about a third of the numbers that we would normally be pre-COVID. Normally we are probably at around 170, 180 kids per session in swim lessons, which was huge. We're probably at around 50 or 60 kids right now that are signing up for each session. So still down Melody's been working on some different summer lesson plans over at the pool. So after this current session is done, we're going to be transitioning our instructors back into the water with the kids. Right now, with the smaller kids, the parents have to be in the water with them. And instructors teach from the deck. Basically, it's almost like an older parent-child class, really, for levels 1 and 2. But now, for the summer, the instructors will be allowed back into the water with the kids. They've got what's called a waterman mask. It's made specifically to wear in the water. It's just like these masks we have on, only it's waterproof. And so that way it's going to allow them back in the water and keep that level of comfort for a lot of people. And because basically we missed a whole year of kids being taught how to swim, you know, and so we want to try and get that back with the comfort level. Lake opening staffing, we plan on opening, what are we looking at here? On June 11th? Mel's already taken off. June 11th is, which is the day after school gets out. Opening on Friday, June 11th. I don't see any really difference than what we had in place in 2019. We are, I'll be honest, I mean, we say we're limiting attendance to 25%, but you don't understand the amount of people that technically if we use the same standards for a regular commercial pool versus a Ashwaubenon Lake, I mean, the attendance would be like 2,000, you know, whatever the capacity is. So at 25%, which seems to be out in the general world what a new alternate capacity is, that's still allowing 500 people in, you know, at one time. Our average attendance typically at Ashwaubenon Lake on any given day during the summer is about, I want to say, almost 300, give or take a little bit, 350. 350, I think it's closer to. So we don't anticipate there being a big issue with anything going on this summer. I mean, obviously, we've changed things out. We've put a bottle filler in so we can have the drinking fountain so people don't have to touch the drinking fountain. We've put in no-touch sinks. We've put in no-touch paper towel dispensers. You know, all this was done within the last year in preparation of getting that comfort level of people being able to go back to Ashwaubenon Lake. So we've done a lot of work there and should be no different procedure-wise, too much anyway, this coming summer. The concessions will operate as usual, admissions will operate as usual, except we've got the plexiglass screens put on the walls, you know, just to, you know, with a foot or two opening underneath for the pass-through of the money or of any product. So I think we're ready to go. Melody is very excited.
How are you having trouble with staffing at all, like overall with lake or pool or any of your rec programs?
Tracy, we are, knock on wood, we're doing great.
Oh, good.
I'll be honest with you, Melody does an absolutely wonderful job of retaining staff and recruiting staff. And I tell people all the time, there's a good way to do it. And maybe it's because we're a smaller community and we have more one-on-one interaction with people, I think, in some ways and forms. Green Bay is only still at this point is only looking at opening 1 or 2 out of their 3 pools right now because they don't have the staff. They don't even know if they're halfway there. And lifeguards are not something that you can just pull out of the corner and say lifeguard. I mean, you've got to put them through training, so on and so forth. The other pools in the area, and really many of them in the state, it's free. They're offering free lifeguard training now. Their municipality is picking up the cost of everything involving training. They don't have to pay for the class, anything like that, just to try and get people on board. We've got it's a good work environment at the lake. I think Melody makes it fun for the kids and does a lot of fun staff activities that make it neat. And there's different reward programs in place and recognition programs for, you know, staff person or lifeguard of the week and things like that. She makes it fun. she's almost like a mom. You know, she will have fun with the staff. She will recruit other people through the current staff by talking to them. Being at the high school a lot, you know, she talks to the PE teachers, she talks to the swim club coaches, she talks to the swim team coaches. She knows everybody personally. And with that, she's constantly in a recruitment mode. And I don't think a lot of other municipalities are at that level where they have that much personal contact with the key people that are out there that can refer people to that position. So again, kudos to Mel. We are good to go, honestly, for the summer already. Where other pools, even in our area, are probably at 25 or 30% staffing right now. Day camp numbers, 55 capacity. I think most weeks, Sue, maybe you can verify, we're probably close to 50.
Yes.
On almost all weeks. Now, last year with COVID, obviously a ton of people dropped. We still had, you know, averaging about 30 kids per week in our day camp program, which certainly made it able to be held through the summer. But we're back up to that 50 number right now. And hopefully by the beginning of the summer, we'll fill in some of those weeks with a couple spots that we have left. And that's over at Valley View. School district is still requiring masking in the building, but once they get outside, which, you know, we're trying to be outside as much as possible, masks come off then. Food truck rallies, what is today, the 20th? We are exactly 1 month away from our first food truck rally of 2021. Out at Ashwaubenon Lake, we've got 5 of them. I think it's the blue cheese combo that's going to be playing band-wise. We've got multiple vendors. I think we've got like 8 food truck vendors at each rally. We're going to be starting the paid Facebook posts probably within the next week or two, just to try and get the word out there even more. We've got them listed as events, and they've been getting a lot of hits on Facebook already, like thousands of hits. So you can kind of see the numbers already. People are getting excited for things coming up to do during the summer. Each food truck typically pays a fee of $100 to be on site. And if they sign up for 3 or more, if they're asked to do 3 or more rallies and they want to do that, then they get a $25 discount. You know, like if you do 3, you're paying $275. With that money being brought in and with the sponsorship from Fortified Bank and Ridgeview Liquor, we have covered all the costs on our bands already for 2021, which is our huge expense. So we're very excited about that. Really, the expenses we have left are product cost, some beverage cooler rentals, and that's really it, because it's been David, me, and Melody that work the events at night. So we really don't have a staff cost anymore with us doing those. And those dollars will be made back up with the beverage sales. So we're as long as the weather is good, we're feeling really good about the food truck rallies where we're sitting right now for 2021.
Are they rain or shine?
No, well, it depends. There was 1 or 2 last year where it misted, and people still showed up and the band still played.
Okay.
If it's raining, it's just gone.
Okay.
You know, we will wind up refunding the money back to each one of the vendors for what they paid. And then, you know, hopefully most of the bands, some of them agree to it, some of them don't in the contracts, just about, you know, they need to know by a certain time of whether they can or cannot play. And once you pass a certain point, you're paying them one way or the other. So we try and make them go as much as we can and keep our fingers crossed, you know, knock on wood, the weather's been good the last 2 years. We are going to be putting in a concrete slab at Ashwaubenon for the band to play on. We knew that we were going to be doing that in the first year, only because when a band is setting up, You know, they've got all their tripods and their equipment and the drum sets and stuff like that. Very difficult just to set up on open ground. It's uneven, it's wet, you've got divots. A lot of times they're bringing in big pieces of plywood to put down. That's why people like playing for our Wednesday concerts at Clipstein Park, is because we've got the concrete slab right there, and then we put a tent over it, and they're good to go. If it rains during the day, no big deal. You know what I mean? The concrete slab can be blown off, dried off, and they're not on wet ground, and they've got covering. So we're going to be putting in pretty much the same spot where they've been playing the last 2 years, a concrete slab, because we've had a number of bands request that, saying, if we're going to continue this and you want us back, we kind of need to have that harder surface. So, but that'll be done in-house this coming month in May. Hopefully we'll have it done before the first rally. All right, senior programming. I don't really have too much to say about that, except we've got a lot of neat programs coming up this year. Interestingly, the numbers at the community center have been very strong with our senior programming. We have a lot of one-hit things, whether it be with our monthly book club or different seminars we have with different people putting it on. I know Woodside has a lunch and learn, and our numbers have been really good. And we've got some fun trips coming up as well, local trips for the seniors this year as well. And registration for those are also going very well. So kudos to David and Rachel for ramping up the senior programming. Doing a good job. And then project-wise, moving up the list, this is something that we're probably going to be having that I'll be having an internal conversation on with staff. It's just Sand Acres Park is getting busier and busier, and as you guys may or may not know, there's probably going to be some new housing development going on out there, where they're taking the northern part of the golf course and turning that into housing, single-family home housing, which will make that park even more busier. So right now we've got 2 porta potties that are emptied multiple times per week. That's probably our biggest complaint about Sand Acres Park is the restroom facilities. So I've been trying not to put a permanent restroom in there, but I think we're at that point where we are going to need a permanent restroom coming up. Some of that can be paid for out of park development with it's a general amenity. Certainly utilities can be paid for with park development funding. So we need to do a little bit more exploration of where some of those funds can come from, but that's going to be coming up, on a discussion point in the near future. All right.
Rex, when's that date again for the first food truck rally?
May 20th, Dean. Thursday, May 20th.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Would a restroom at Sand Acres, would that be a year-round facility, or is that seasonal?
It'll be seasonal.
Okay.
It'll be seasonal. Basically, we have to heat a building like that is astronomical. It's a whole different foundation, a whole different insulation system. There's a lot of things going on. So it would be a basic restroom facility that probably late October, early November, before we got freezing temperatures on a regular basis, we would be able to just blow the water lines out, which is called winterizing it, and be done with it. And
I was just curious for the sledding crowd out there.
What's that?
I was curious for the sledding crowd out there.
There's a big sledding crowd. But we do the same thing out at the sports complex for the restroom facility we have out there by the soccer fields, as well as at Ashwaubenon Park in the boys baseball complex, and shelter number 4. We blow all of those out at the end of the summer. Clear out the lines so they don't freeze and break.
All righty, thank you.
Long topic, but thanks for listening. I want everyone to know what's happening out there. So, and questions are good.
I guess you can keep up because we're going next to the Park Recreation Department reports.
Brochures out. Class registration is going well. We are hosting another lifeguard, well, we just got done with the lifeguard training class. Mel did this past couple weeks ago, actually. That was the last group of people that she, I think, needed to hire. I believe there might be a couple of cafe spots open for the lake, but other than that, we are good. Our pool has turned out really nice in terms of being able to bring in bigger meets. We just hosted a sectional meet, which was flipped over from another school. I think Bayport actually gave part of it up. They were supposed to host it, but it got moved over to Ashwaubenon. Again, due to COVID, there are more teams, and they kind of redivided up the area for the number of teams. I think we hosted like 12 teams or something like that at the pool for the sectional meet at the end of March. So that's going really well in terms of the number of people in the groups using the pool. That was a big deal. And then we also have the diving competition. So they do like diving competition on Friday night. Divers from all over, because we got the double diving boards, and then Saturday and Sunday are typically the actual swimming. Forestry, the winter tree removal projects are complete. Stumping is being done. That was done about a week or two ago. I'm going to say probably within the next month or so is my guess. You'll start to see some of the ash trees being taken down by the private contractor. So we've got 2 different contracts out. One of them's for Argonne Park, and another one is in Smith, and another one is for the general street trees east of Highway 41. Unfortunately, we lost a number of oaks again at Klipstein Park. We still have some beautiful trees in there, but there's ramifications of things that happened by building the baseball diamond up when the park was kind of redone with some of the soils and soil issues that were there. Klipstein was already a wet park, and it made the park even wetter. And then with some of the construction equipment on the periphery that was driving, nothing could be done about that, but that compacted some of the soil. Long story short, anything that happens like that in a park, it stresses the trees. When the trees are stressed, they're more susceptible to disease and insects. It's a bug story again. I want to say it's like the yellow, the 2-line oak borer or something. But anyway, the majority of the trees that we removed, I think we removed over 15 trees this winter that died like that. They literally died within a week or two last summer. Like they were green 1 week, and 2 weeks later, the whole tree was brown. It's like, what happened? It was the chestnut or the oak borers that got it because the trees were stressed. So again, we are working on replacing those. A lot of those were taken down. There's still a few more that need to be taken down closer to the building, but we need to get on the actual grass to do that. And right now it's too wet for us to get the bucket truck in there and do that safely.
Are they replanting oaks in there then, Rex? Do you know?
We are replanting trees that will do better in wet soils. The only oaks that will, because typically oaks are an upland tree. Yeah. They like a little bit drier conditions, so the swamp whites will probably take wetter conditions, but in terms of the different oak species, and those were not swamp white oaks that we took down.
No, they're not.
But yeah, we're trying to diversify more than ever with that, just because there's always going to be bugs that are out there and always going to be different diseases. So whatever the next wave is that hits, that takes out a particular species, we don't want it to take out a whole park, basically. I'll just say, there's a lot of information on the department reports. Are there any questions on any programs, projects, whether they be listed on here or not listed on here? I'd be happy to try and report on what's happening.
I noticed in the brochure you have Fort Howard Park and Ashwaubenon now open to dogs.
Correct.
Could you go through that a little bit and explain how that process works and how someone could go ahead and take advantage of that?
And we've always had those two parks open, probably for the last 10 years or so. We've always given away dog passes, but we're just trying to advertise it a little bit more this year. So at Ashwaubenon Park and Fort Howard Park, you're able to run your dogs off leash at those parks. All you need to do is come in to the Park and Rec Department. You're given a list of basically a couple of guidelines to follow, just saying, hey, I'm going to pick up after my dog. I agree that it's probably not the best idea to run the dog in the middle of the baseball complex or in someone's picnic area, who may not appreciate, basically keep your dog away from congregating groups, and you can run them off leash and have fun with your dog, basically. But we just ask you to come in, and what we'll do is we'll give you a little card, good for the year, no cost, it's free. And that just says that you agreed to the rules, basically. That way, in case any public safety officer, and they make patrols through the park, and in case they say, hey, did you get your permit to run your dog, and then you show them the card, and you're good to go. So it's really easy, quite painless. You just stop by, get the card, and you're good. And it helps us keep the geese away.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments for any of those items? Okay, next is the items for the next meeting's agenda. Anybody have any ideas?
So
Mark? Well,
I've got two, but I will let President Kardowski say whatever she wants first.
I just didn't want you to adjourn prior to what I have to say. It's the month of April, so I am doing committee appointments. And we have Justin Miner on the Park and Rec Committee. He's been on there for several years, and he is going to give somebody else an opportunity to serve on this committee. And I just want to say thank you, Justin, for all the years that you have been so devoted to Ashwaubenon's Park and Rec Board.
Yep.
Did a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
A couple items for the May agenda. Tracy Fluke won the trustee position for the village that was open for her area. So now that is settled, I think what we'll do in May, because this will be our board, and I don't know, Mary, do we have anybody in line potentially for park board? So there you go. So then we'll have our full contingent of park board members then for the May. We'll have some official new ones then. And I'd like to officially elect a park board chair.
Right.
And then a vice chair. And Mark, thank you for, Mark probably thought, I'm going to be the vice chair. I'll never have to worry about anything. Well, here the last 3 meetings, you're the guy.
Here I am, a part of the furniture.
So thank you for doing that. But yeah, we want to take care of that at the May meeting. The other thing too is just because some of these bigger projects take a little bit of discussion and prioritizing, and we've got our corp plan out there, we've got our 10-year master plan that's out there. We might want to start taking a look at what big projects are out there and potentially what we might want to prioritize for budget submittal for the 2022 budget. I know it's only May, but that stuff is already decided by late August. So we probably want to all be on the same page of what we want to submit. And a little discussion anyway on what your priorities are for when I meet with administration, we go through those processes. So probably start doing a little bit of that, see where you're at. Those are my two agenda items that I'd like to see bring forward.
Well, thank you, Rex, because I was just going to mention a core plan update.
We can do that. You want to, Sue, why don't you put that one down too? We can make that almost a separate one.
Okay.
I was going to mention the election of a chairperson, so get your election signs out. Anybody else have any other questions or concerns? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion to adjourn, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.